Hey, so I've been having trouble making videos because the whole point of this whole YouTube channel for me is to document this illness, CIDP, and lately whatever other illnesses have latched on to me, and basically the life of living with chronic illness, whatever illness that may be, and what some of the realities are like, even some of the not so pretty parts. I've been struggling because right now it's hard to focus on that and say, oh, what is going on with me when there's so much, at least for me, with so much going on in the world with COVID-19 and so much stress and anxiety that I personally am feeling about that, and the high risk situation that I am if I were to catch COVID-19. However, I realize I need to keep making these videos, and I need to be loyal to myself in making these videos and showing what life is like for me after the plasmapheresis that I had in February, showing some of my progress, showing some of my ups and downs, if for no one else, myself, and also showing what it's like to be somebody who's as chronically ill and has this autoimmune disease and is this living in such a scary world where this virus, this pandemic is happening. So while the average, like the overall death toll or death rate right now in the United States is somewhere between 5 and 7% of people who catch it do die. For the average healthy person, that number is much lower. For someone like me, that number is much higher. Don't have a specific statistic, but our governor's thrown a few numbers around. Different sources are looking at somewhere around a 1 in 4 chance. It could be higher than that. I mean, really, who knows at this point? So it's kind of scary. It could be lower, it could be higher. I do have a lot of the risk factors. I have a heart condition, as well as part of my autoimmune disease. My body already has the tendency to take a virus and turn it into an autoimmune disease. That's why I have this autoimmune disease now. And the very specific autoimmune disease that I have, CIDP, is the chronic form of Guillain-Barré. And it's suspected that I had Guillain-Barré first. That is one of the most common ways you get CIDP, is you either have a virus or vaccine that triggers this autoimmune response. And then you have Guillain-Barré, which is the acute short-term form. Some people only have that and get better, normally have a lot of long-term life effects, it seems like. And some people develop this chronic version called CIDP, and that was me. I was never diagnosed or treated for Guillain-Barré. It may have been a mild case of Guillain-Barré, or I don't know, it could have skipped Guillain-Barré. But the fun thing is, they found cases of coronavirus or COVID-19 specifically triggering Guillain-Barré response in individuals. So this is not only a virus that triggers autoimmune response, which, sorry, I didn't clarify that. It is one where they've also found that it has triggered some individuals to their own immune system to attack their lung tissue and trying to get to these proteins and trying to eradicate COVID-19 from the system. It ends up causing the body to attack its own lung tissue. Not in all cases, but in some cases. So that's kind of that is an autoimmune category of response. So people are more prone to responses like that, are going to at least theoretically be more prone to having that response in the environment of COVID-19. And then hearing that Guillain-Barré specifically is coming out of COVID-19, some COVID-19 patients, and they do believe that there is a genetic link to some of these autoimmune diseases. My father does not have Guillain-Barré or CIDP, at least not yet. He does have rheumatoid arthritis, which also he believes, at least, and like many other patients, has a story of a virus or a vaccine, in his case, a vaccine, where afterwards he got really sick, and from that point forward had all the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis, and was later diagnosed. So it does run in my family. If it is genetic, as they think with many of these diseases, then I have that gene. It has already been activated once, the tendency for my immune system to have an autoimmune response after a virus to then latch on to continually attacking itself. These are just bad factors. Now, somebody could get on here and watch this and say, oh, you don't know, blah, 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 blah. You know what? I don't have time for you in my life right now. There is so much happening. There are so many people dying. Our society is shutting down. I am not on a platform. I'm not trying to convince a single soul in the world of what they should believe for themselves. But I just want to say, for me, I have read New England Journal. I've been reading articles from New England Journal of Medicine. I've been reading articles from Johns Hopkins. I've been reading everything on the CDC websites. I've been reading articles from numerous other news sources. And I'm not saying what it should be for other people. I'm saying in relation to me, very, very specifically, in my reaction to things, I have a higher risk. I mean, let's set aside that there have been several agencies who list autoimmune disease as a high risk factor for being able to fight this. But I'm getting a little offensive because I've had some people try to tell me that that one shouldn't be scared and we should all keep living our lives. And that is great. If that works for you and that is the way that you need to cope with it, that is fine. Some people need to do that. A percentage of the population to keep our society running. Thank you for being out there and keeping our society running. And either taking that risk, or if you don't think that risk is very high for you personally, you probably know yourself better than I do. And I trust that that's right for you. And there's a lot of factors that go into everybody's lives on what is worth it. For me, with my level of risk, with all those things that I'm taking into consideration, with the number of unknowns that are out there about this disease, with things like it's mutating on a regular basis, and even finding a vaccine may be very challenging for that reason, that people are they're finding cases of people who've had COVID-19 and then are getting it again because of the mutation. Once you have it, you're not necessarily immune and safe at that point. These are a lot of factors. And if you take all of everything I've said aside and you just go down to the fact that I was in the hospital in February, I received plasmapheresis, 4 rounds of it that replaced approximately 90% of my blood plasma and kind of started over fresh with my immune system. My immune system has been struggling. I have been in a recovery mode ever since that time. It's late April now. It's been a little over 2 months. And on top of that, I have been fighting a seriously aggressive autoimmune condition that has for the last 3 years been continually aggressively attacking my nerves, while my body is continually aggressively trying to heal my nerves, the myelin sheath specifically, so that my body continues to function. And we're not just talking about the arms and legs. In my case, we are talking about the nerves that affect my organs, and many of my organs are affected. My autonomic nervous system, I have many dysautonomias documented from this, already affected, already challenged. I have daily problems with digesting food. Getting nutrition is my daily fight, as well as just having my body having the energy and the resilience to keep healing, and trying to keep this at the same time trying to keep this autoimmune disease at bay and keeping my stress low, so that my body can also just have every ability to stay calm and not attack itself and not activate those stress responses, which tend to activate more of the autoimmune response in people like me. If you take all of the things I said specific to COVID so far aside, and you just look at, I'm a very sick person who is already fighting on a day-to-day basis to maintain my bodily functions, to maintain my body's ability to work and communicate with itself. You can't just add a massive illness on top of that and expect me to do well. You also, if in a best case scenario, all of that work we did with all the plasma exchange in February, it might be for not. Like in best case scenario, I get COVID-19, my body goes and focuses on that. Maybe it doesn't have an autoimmune response. Maybe I don't develop any new autoimmune diseases. Maybe it doesn't attack the lungs. Maybe I have a very mild immune response because I am, by the way, we'll talk about that in a second, I'm doing lots of things that are trying to help calm down my immune system. So maybe I do have that best case scenario, but the best case scenario means it's gonna mess up a lot of work I've been doing to heal and recover and get strength back and chase this hope that I might go into remission and stay in remission. That's really gonna mess that up by putting my body through that amount of stress, best case. Worst case scenario, those things do happen. Autoimmune responses are triggered. My body's already weakened. My body already has a dysfunctional immune system. It isn't able to fight it off. I am hospitalized, and I am one of currently they're saying 88% of people put on ventilators do not live. Yeah, a lot of those people are at-risk older people, at-risk people with previous health conditions. Guess what? That's me. I have pre-existing health conditions. I'm actually really, really sick right now. So anyways, that's the state of the world for me. It's so easy to say all those things happening in the world aren't about me, they're about other people. Or Erica, don't be silly, it's not about you. They're not talking about you, they're talking about these other people who are really sick. No, this time they're actually talking about me. I'm the at-risk population, so this is really scary for me. There's not a whole lot else in my life right now to talk about. What am I doing? I'm never leaving the house. If I leave the house, well, I'm hardly ever leaving the house. I've gone on some walks, but I do them at hours of the day or night, very, very short walks where I'm not exposed to anybody. I take a mask with me at all times. I have needed to drop a package at the post office. I went on a Sunday when no one was there. I was the only one in the lobby. No other cars or customers. I put it in the box. I left immediately, sanitized my hands, got home, changed my clothes, washed my hands, did everything, wore a mask the whole time. That's the limit. That's the most exposure I've had in 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. Yeah, not 2 months. That's 6 weeks. 6 weeks I've been home. My significant other who lives with me, he had to leave his work because he was being exposed daily. He was being exposed daily to other people who are out about in the world. He worked at a medical clinic. We had divided up our house so that we didn't interact, but we're still sharing an AC system and airspace. We're still having to share a kitchen. We still had to do some minor level of overlap, even though I would do things like try not to be in rooms he was in for 3 hours afterwards. And we had totally separate bedrooms and living spaces for that, and bathrooms and all that. But unfortunately, there wasn't a scenario where he could have less exposure, and he's not bringing it home is really critical because the odds of me catching it if he brought it home were extremely high, especially being that he was every time he went into work, he was exposed to a lot of people who were in turn exposed to a lot of other people, who may or may not be carrying it, since they say such a high percentage. Some estimates say as high as 90% of cases do not have symptoms active. It seems like from various things I read, it's certainly about 25% don't have symptoms or asymptomatic. But when you take into account that someone can have no symptoms for a long time prior to starting to show symptoms, that's where your numbers in the, something like 90% come in that have periods of time where they have no symptoms that are visible, so you can't tell if they have it or not. These are really scary things. Grocery delivery, bleaching everything, I have a sanitization station in the garage. Anything that doesn't need to come in immediately stays out there for 3 days at least. I don't mess with plastic bags and touching all that. I wear a mask whenever I interact with groceries that are delivered. I don't interact with the people delivering them. Even my prescriptions are being delivered at this point. So that's that. I'm gonna wrap this video up because this is a pretty high stress topic, and 15 minutes is about all we need on that. So I wanna follow up with another video where I talk a little bit more about other things I'm doing to try to put myself in the best scenario possible, best case possible, if I do eventually catch COVID-19, which I hope I don't, but statistically, it's a pretty high chance most of us will. All right, thanks for watching.